Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together. And today the video is going to be on my top 5 classroom management strategies. We went over 30 classroom management strategies to help you in your classroom and to help you navigate classroom behavior. Now, if someone said I could only use 5 of them, here's the 5 that I would use. The first tip I would use would be respectful tone. RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. Aretha said it best. Respect. Find out what respect means. Respect means so many different things in different cultures, different households, between different family members, between friends. And how is a student supposed to know how to respect you unless you tell them what respect means to you, what it looks like, and how you feel respected in your classroom? You cannot assume that students just know what respect means to you. In first, second day, you're like, oh, you're being disrespectful. But you never told the students what respect looks like. So once I learned that I needed to teach my students how I wanted to be respected, each year I would start off with what I needed to be respected, which was 3 things. The first thing was how the students responded to me. They could say yes, yes, ma'am, no, no, ma'am. I didn't like that, what'd you say, whatever, okay. I need a yes, yes, ma'am, no, or no, ma'am. Those were responses that were cool with me. The second thing, I told them, don't yell at me. I can project my voice really, really loud and far, but I don't yell at my students because I didn't like being yelled at as a child, so I wouldn't want to put that on my students as well. And it could be triggering. Yelling at students, you don't know what they deal with at home, and yelling could make them flip. And I just knew it was triggering for me, so I was telling the students, I'm not going to yell at you, so when you talk to me, don't yell at me. If you feel like you're raising your voice, take a deep breath, calm down, and then talk to me. If you need to step outside, let me know. But we're not going to be yelling at each other in my classroom. And the last thing I told the students, don't talk while I'm talking. Because 99.9% of the time, what I'm saying out my mouth is important and I want you to hear it. So I'll give you the same respect. If you're talking and you're trying to explain something to me, I'm going to let you explain it without interrupting you, but give me the same courtesy. So I taught my students what respect looked like for me. So when I told them that they were being disrespectful, they knew that one of those 3 things they crossed the line on, and I wanted them to correct it. As time went by in the classroom, the students would correct other students. Like, hey, remember she said you could only say yes or yes, ma'am? You can't be saying, what, her? Or you remember she said don't yell at her, so calm down, lower your voice. They'll start correcting their classmates because they knew what I deemed as being respectful in my classroom. And they held each other accountable for that as well. The second tip I would use would be leave your ego at the door. As the adult in the classroom, I had no business arguing with a student. I'm the adult. I should be showing the example of how you should act. Now, did I get into arguments with students? Sure did. Sometimes I let that ego step in, and I want to be the one to have the last say. But did it get us anywhere? No. All I was doing was feeding my ego. That's it. I was not accomplishing anything. I did not prove anything to the student other than I could argue, but we were not resolving the issue at hand that we were arguing about. When you leave your ego at the door, the things the students may say won't bother you. If a student says, you're not my mama, you can't tell me what to do, or I hate this class. Students go through a lot of things outside of school that we don't realize. So things they may say to you could just be them trying to express that they're upset. And it may not be about you. They may be saying something about you at that point in time, but that anger is not really about you. I'm your teacher right now, and I see that you're struggling with something, and I see that the words that are coming out of your mouth means that you're angry. You must be upset. So let's talk about it. What's going on? What's the problem? Give them some time to calm down and then see what's really going on with that student. Because probably 90% of the time, it is not about you. And I've learned that my ego is like what they say, your evil twin. It loves all the smoke. It wants to get into those arguments. It wants to win. But as a teacher, I need to be the adult in the room, avoid those power struggles, and set the example. The third tip that I must have in my classroom is building rapport with my students. There's a quote that I love that says, no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. Students don't care what you have to teach them until they see how much you actually care about them and care about their success as a student. Now, I remember in school, there was a lot of teachers that I didn't think cared for me, but I cared about my grades because my parents cared. So I didn't care about those relationships with my teachers because I was scared about what would happen if I got home and didn't have my grades. But for those teachers who did take out the time to care about me and what I had going on outside of the classroom, inside the classroom, I worked harder and my grades were much better in their classroom. I remember my third grade teacher, she called me over to her computer. That's when they had those big old computers on their desktop, and she showed me this grade and she says, "Do you think your parents will be happy about this grade?" And I was like, "No, ma'am." And she said, "Do you think I need to call them?" I was like, "Oh, no, you don't need to call them. I'll get it together." But she knew I could do better. She cared about me doing better. And she also knew that my parents cared. So she knew the path to take to get me to wake up. So she took enough time to get to know me, knew my normal behavior, knew my character, and know about something outside of classroom. She knew that my parents cared about how successful I was. So she took that, put it all together, had a talk with me, and she didn't have to worry about seeing that grade anymore because she wasn't about to call my house and say anything about my grades. So I need to teach my students how to respect me, make sure I left my ego at the door, build relationships with my students, let them know that I care about them as a student and about them outside of school. So get to know them so we can incorporate that into them being a successful student altogether. The fourth tip that I would absolutely need is an organized classroom. It could just be how my brain works, but when things are organized, the day goes smoother, less chaos. I remember my 7th grade science teacher. Now, science wasn't my favorite subject, but my 7th grade science teacher was the most organized teacher I had to that point. We had binders then, and we had to have what they called a binder check. So your binder had to have different tabs with certain sections in them that must be there. And we used to also get grades for our binders. But she had an example binder, and it was color-coded. It had all our worksheets in there by day, and it had a label what day she gave them to us. If we had to color something, hers was color coordinated. I just loved that binder, and I loved checking my binder with her binder. It wasn't hard to find things in her classroom because everything was labeled. She had a system on how you get things that you needed that you missed out on. I feel like if I could go back and give her kudos, everything was in place. And we knew that when we got in her classroom, we knew exactly what to do. We didn't have to ask her. We sat down, got our work done. And when we were done with our work, we knew exactly where to put it. In her classroom, just everything ran smooth. It wasn't a circus in there. Behaviors did not happen in her class. And I didn't know why. I just thought because she was a likable teacher. But her classroom was organized, and we knew that she cared about us. So I knew that when I became a teacher, everything had to be organized. I needed everything to have its place. I needed my bins to be labeled so the students know where to turn things in. I needed things on my desk to be labeled. So if a student was missing work, I knew where to get it from, or I knew how to get anything I needed in my classroom because I made sure everything was organized so I could run my class smoothly. And I'm a strong believer. When my day was going smooth, my students' days were going smooth because I was calm and collected. And so my students could feel that. And they came in, they knew everything was going to be calm and collected. Finally, tip 5, I need consistent routines in my classroom. When you have consistent routines in your classroom, those routines become habits. If every time the bell rings, I make my students wait at their desk until I call their table to leave the classroom, and I do that consistently, they know we can't just pop up and run out the classroom. We know that we have to wait until she calls our table. And when you do things consistently, you don't have to remind them. So come April, I'm not upset about students running out of my classroom and feel like I can't control them because we started this back in August. And I did it consistently. So now it's a habit in my classroom. Students know when I call your table, push your chair in, I'll walk out the classroom like a civilized human being. And when you have consistency in your classroom, students start to run the classroom for you. They're like, okay, the bell just rung. Y'all, sit down, chill out. We know we can't leave until everybody's quiet. And she calls our table. And when you're consistent with your routines day in and day out, you don't have to remind the students anymore. They just know what to do. They know where to go to get things that they're missing. They know what to do when they come in. They don't have to ask you as many questions. So you're no longer directing the classroom. You're more facilitating what's going on and not having to stress yourself out and make so many decisions for your students. So do these 5 tips resonate with you? Do you have other tips that you would rather use in your classroom? If you had to pick 5, there are 5 other ones that you would pick to make sure that your classroom runs smoothly? Or are these 5 like, oh yeah, these are the 5 I need exactly, I agree with you, or there's some things I would change? Let me know in the comments what you prefer or what you use in your classroom to make sure that your days run smoothly, your years run smoothly, where you don't go home with a headache or stressed out every day. And if you have not, check out our 1 through 30 classroom management tips. I will try to link them somewhere on the screen so you can go check them out and let us know what you think about those as well. Please like this video. If you have not, please subscribe to my channel. Also share this video with someone this could help as well. And until next time,